I hope you enjoy my stories. Instead of just clicking thumbs down, please comment and share how we can do better. If you do like our video, then please like and subscribe.
In my many years, I've seen my fair share of wrangles and squabbles, but none so peculiar and enthralling as the affair of the homeowners on trial. It reminds me of the old community disputes back in my younger days, though back then we had neither the term Homeowners Association nor the penchant for formal meetings over every trifling matter. But I digress.
Let me reel back the years and recount to you this remarkable tale as it unfolded in my twilight years.
You see, our neighborhood was a quiet, unassuming place, where the most excitement we'd usually muster was the occasional block party, or the rare sight of a moving van signaling fresh blood.
However, tranquility, as they say, begets the greatest storms, and our storm brewed not from nature's doings, but from the hearts of men, or more precisely, from the hearts of homeowners, almost 1/3 of whom decided they had had enough.
Enough of what, you might ask?
Why, the bullying and incompetence of our Homeowners Association, a body that perhaps once served a noble purpose, but had since soured into a den of pettiness and power plays. We used to whisper our grievances in the safety of our living rooms, shrugging off the HOA's antics with a blend of resignation and mild amusement. But as the weeks rolled on, those living rooms could no longer contain us. We spilled out, seeking solace and camaraderie in the hall, our numbers swelling, our snacks plentiful, and our spirits kindled by a shared resolve. The catalyst of our assembly was the sheer outrage of a certain board member. She, with her feathers ruffled and ire ignited, demanded an immediate meeting.
The audacity of us to convene without the sanctimonious oversight of the board.
Especially irksome to her was the attendance of a fellow board member, whose term dangled by the merest of threads, set to expire in but 4 days.
The nerve, she thought, the unmitigated gall.
And so she decreed that we all, who had partaken in Thursday's gathering, should answer for ourselves.
A laughable notion indeed.
Our defiance, it seemed, was not without consequence. Already, our ranks had been vindicated by 2 resignations from the board, a withdrawal from the approaching election, and the impending downfall of the very director who sought to summon us to the proverbial gallows. The HOA, in its infinite wisdom, had lamented the apathy of the community, bemoaned the dearth of willing candidates to fill its vacancies, yet failed to see the poison it had become. Who in their right mind would willingly step into the fray, only to be met with insults and disdain? But we were not deterred. From the ashes of our discontent, we raised 7 valiant souls to run for the 4 open slots on the board, countering the HOA's paltry 3. Our campaign, though nascent, was fierce and born of a collective yearning for change.
We rallied, canvassed, and debated, each of us contributing in our way, united by a common cause. The day of reckoning approached with the inevitability of an oncoming storm.
The meeting called by our fervent adversary was to be our battlefield.
We assembled a phalanx of homeowners armed with nothing but our conviction in the truth.
The air was electric, charged with the tension of impending conflict. The board member, her power waning like the last rays of a setting sun, stood before us. Her attempts to cow us into submission, to make us answer for ourselves, fell on defiant ears. For what crime were we to atone? The crime of seeking a voice, of demanding competence and respect?
The meeting, rather than a trial, became a reckoning for the board. One by one, we stood not to answer for imagined transgressions, but to articulate our vision for the future. We spoke of a neighborhood united, not by fear, but by a collective spirit of cooperation and mutual respect.
A community where the HOA served its people rather than lorded over them. In the end, the election came.
The votes were cast, a testament to the will of the people. The old guard, those who sought to clamp down on dissent and maintain their grip on power, were swept away.
In their place stood our candidates, the heralds of a new dawn. It was not merely a changing of the guard, it was a revolution of spirit and purpose. The aftermath of our so-called trial saw the neighborhood transformed.
No longer did we gather in secret, muttering about the tyranny of the few.
Now we met openly in the light of day, our discussions buoyed by a sense of empowerment and hope.
The board rejuvenated by fresh faces and new ideas, began to heal the rifts that had long divided our community.
The meetings, once arenas of conflict, became forums for collaboration. Projects delayed by years of bickering were revitalized, and initiatives once thought impossible began to take shape. As I reached the dusk of my life, I find myself reflecting on those chaotic years with a heavy heart.
Not for the triumphs or the conflicts, but for the missed opportunities of unity within our community. We realized, perhaps too late for many and barely in time for a few, that the true strength of a neighborhood doesn't just come from the decisions of its leaders, but should have stemmed from the unity of its people.
The saga of the homeowners on trial is a somber narrative, a tale of division, disunity, and ultimately stagnation. It stands as a warning narrative, dimming the hope for those who might find themselves under the oppressive shadows of petty dictatorship.
Let it then be acknowledged that when confronted with intimidation and incompetence, the spirit of the many faltered before the will of the few, leading to a negative outcome if you allow it. What can I do about this situation to not get into trouble? I live in U.S. Washington. I moved into my condo about 2.5 years ago. After a few months of moving in, the person who lives below came up to my apartment
and started blasting at my parents, who opened the door and were visiting, and doesn't even speak English.
He was shouting about a noise issue. I talked to him nicely. Now I didn't know about it, but the chairs in my dining area when moved used to cause a noise for the level below. This was when I was new, so I didn't know about it until he told me, shouted at me. I made sure the chair noise never happened again. Because of course, if it's under my control and if I am doing something, I want to be helpful and not cause trouble.
But the interaction was not pleasant. I didn't say anything considering there was an issue on my side and was understanding about it. He could have been nice and explained what was happening, but he chose not to. And this was the first ever interaction with this old gentleman who lives below me.
Cut to 8 months later around 10 p.m. I was working with my headphones on while he kept bashing my front door. I was working and deep into a coding issue at that point that I was trying to debug. Took me few minutes to realize someone is on front door, because I also had my noise-canceling headphones on. I was scared at first, but opened the door and he just shouts at me saying, "Stop whatever you're doing. It's getting noisy."
I explained him very nicely, I am working and not doing anything.
He keeps on not believing and saying that I just need to stop being really unreasonable. 2 minutes into this, we hear a noise. It's coming from, I don't know, maybe upstairs or from the apartment next door. I don't know and don't care. But then he says, hear that's the noise, while I am standing in front of him on my front door. Because the noise is coming from somewhere else, and he says, it's that, so right there I was not doing anything. I live alone. I don't have pets, and my girlfriend lives in a different city right now for her job. At this point, I gave him my number and told him that next time it happens, feel free to shoot me a message, and then we can figure out what's happening together. Tried to be helpful in the situation. The other thing is that I travel so much that I am not home 50% of the time. So my intention was either we can figure out where it's coming from or if I am doing it. I will see what am I doing at that point when he hears the noise and will be more mindful of that specific thing and not cause any issue. Few days after I gave him the number, he messaged me in middle of the night at 2 a.m. to ask my pet to be controlled.
I don't have a pet, and no one else living in my apartment, no one was visiting.
And I was already asleep for more than an hour when I got that message.
This again was not a message asking if I am doing something, and if I can stop and be more mindful. This was again straight up, putting a blame on me without even knowing the situation.
So I tried being helpful, but that didn't seem to work. Cut to tonight. He comes while I just got back from a day trip and tells me that I need to stop dropping stuff. And I was also making noise last night. When I tell him that, I just got back and that I was out last night till 2 a.m. I was out yesterday from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. and he is not ready to believe. He is like, your girlfriend might be here, who was visiting, and he saw her.
I would have just said that it might be my girlfriend and I will let her know if she was home. But we were both out together.
Which is not ready to believe. Then he says there was also someone smoking. Now what am I supposed to do about any smoke that he is getting from wherever the hell?
I have been very respectful to him considering he is an elder person, but he has not been okay in all of these incidents which were 6 to 8 months apart. Even if there was a noise from my side, the dude could have just been nice and told me that there is something I would be mindful, but he has not been nice about it.
Now, the concerning part is that in one of these interactions, he mentioned that, if I would like to hear from his lawyer, and I don't want to get into any legal trouble. I own the house, but I am still on a visa in the country and don't want to be caught up in useless issue. I want to inform the HOA about it, but I also don't want them to say anything to him to agitate him.
What is the best I can do to not get into any legal trouble in this case?
HOA president trying to remove my dog.
My parents have been living in the same neighborhood for nearly 25 years. They own a condo.
I had to move back to care for my mom as she had cancer.
While she was recovering, my dog passed away.
During this time, I had to deal with the HOA belittling me when I requested an exception to allow my truck during this extraordinarily difficult time.
They rejected me via calling my dad and then emailing me that I am not the homeowner and cannot make requests.
I complied. I never parked my truck here, and I allowed my friend to borrow my truck in the meanwhile.
I adopted a new dog for emotional support. She was a puppy mill mom rescue, and as such required lots of training over the last 4 months. This included overcoming her fear of leaving the house. We sat in front of my house with toys and treats. Finally, one day she was willing to walk several feet to the dumpsters in front of my house.
Then the HOA president came up to me and asked me to move. I was polite and explained the situation to her, that I couldn't go to the public road because of my dog's fear. She was tearing up, asking me to have compassion for her children who play there, by the dumpster.
I did get sassy and told her that I have poop bags, and the pee would be recycled through the nitrogen cycle. There's duck, iguana, stray cat pee everywhere.
Also, I see dogs walking there all the time.
I was petty. I did send the HOA a complaint about the litter by the dumpsters, candy wrappers and toys gun foam bullets. I did it knowing it was the HOA president's children. Now, 2 months later, my dog walks fine on a leash on the public road.
But the HOA president has hit me with these emails on a Friday afternoon before the holiday weekend. The request is that I have 24 hours to remove my dog if I don't fill out accommodation paperwork, emotional support animal, service dog.
She states that I'll have to pay $100 per day if the dog isn't removed, a demand to remove the dog by animal control via an attorney, and to pay all the attorney fees. I had a dog for 18 years here before. And I'm not sure why they are using the standards of my dad's first contract from 25 years ago, when they did not allow dogs in the neighborhood.
The rules have since changed.
I'm trying one of those scammy emotional support animal websites, because I'm desperate, simply because my psychiatrist's office is closed until after Christmas, and I don't even know when I can get an appointment to see if she can help me.
I did email her just in case.
HOA president is F-ing with me and my dog because I complained about her kids F-ing a littering issue. Edit. Asked the emotional support animal website for a refund, and I'm simply waiting for my psychiatrist to help.
Thanks to those who let me know how such a website could be seen as illegitimate for using it in Florida. Update. It's seeming the paperwork that my neighborhood is demanding I get filled out is a HIPAA violation. It's asking for a doctor to fill out questions of life events that have caused my disability. How long I need an emotional support animal, and how an emotional support animal would help me with my disability.
HOA Prez trying to remove my dog PT2.
Summary. HOA president told me to not walk my dog by the dumpsters because her kids play there. I explained I was training my dog, puppy mill mom rescued, never been leash trained.
I wrote a petty email to the HOA office complaining about litter by the dumpsters. 2 months later, the Prez sends a threatening email on Friday afternoon before Xmas weekend, giving me 24 hours to remove my dog or to fill out accommodation paperwork. Threat includes $100 a day, fine for dog being present in the home, plus attorney fees for potential forceful removal of dog. Update. Pet rules are all over the place. Pets are not allowed, but rules weren't enforced. We had a family dog for 18 years with the rule waived for us, and plenty of people have dogs here, walk them anywhere they want. 2 months later, I walk my dog on the public street now, never inside the neighborhood, despite others doing so. I had no problem getting a letter, but my psychiatrist was gone for vacation.
I don't have a primary doctor because I don't have insurance, and doctors with no history with me refused to fill out the specific paperwork the neighborhood requested. Finally spoke to a counselor who explained to me that the paperwork would be a HIPAA violation for any doctor to fill out. Some of the questions included life events that caused said disabilities, mental illness, how disability affects patient, approximate date of life events, how long an emotional support animal may be needed for therapeutic support. Anyways, the HOA can't just ask for a doctor to explain traumatic events that have caused a need for an emotional support animal. My dad, the homeowner, had sent a response email but no response. He got a chance to go in person today, and they instantly changed their threats once he mentioned HIPAA. They said it was just to scare us, but no fines will be given. They said just to wait for my doctor to get back from vacation.
Note: the email with the attorney threats came from the HOA president directly when the HOA office was closed. It was in my dad's junk mail. He's never even gotten an email from her.
All official notices come through letters or the condo's email. FCK HOAs and FCK weird HOA presidents with no lives.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.